Hi, my name is Robert. Please read the comments in the About section of this video. It has valuable information and updates. My YouTube channel has a disclaimer video that I encourage you to watch. And please like, share, and subscribe. I hope you found what you're looking for. Thank you very much for watching. We are here kicking off the Tinker Day. Somebody installed a low-hanging filter. Something clipped the filter and dumped all the oil and seized the engine before it could get pulled over good. So we're going to pull the block. We're going to get this head out of the way, undo the rest of the stuff holding this block in, get that out of the way, put the car up on jack stand so we could get under it, unbolt the transmission, scoot the transmission over to the side. Hopefully, if we do that, we'll have to pull the axles out, but heck, let's see if we can just undo the carriage and lift the engine up off of it that way. We got the head set out of the way, the starter is removed, so I'm going to make sure all of the torque converter bolts are removed. Oh, that's probably not going to happen since this engine is seized. Man, I gotta figure out how we're going to get this transmission off of this engine if this engine is seized. We might have to put a big breaker bar on that thing and get that thing broke, because you've got to turn the engine to get at these torque converter bolts. I'm trying to get this thing to move either direction.
All right, ready?
Yeah.
I think it's loosening the bolt.
Yeah, it did. All right. This one, we can't turn it either way. I put some transmission fluid in the cylinders to hopefully lubricate in there a little bit, and maybe we can get it to turn with some penetration in there, but we'll see. Right now we got so much loose, the whole engine's moving. And one thing I kind of was looking at, well, when you got your engine locked up, you can't turn your crank to get your torque converter bolts out, so you can't take the transmission apart and leave it here, because it ain't going to stay, because the torque converter is stuck in the transmission, which is bolted to the engine. So you would have to pull the engine and transmission out together, and then pull the transmission off of the torque converter when you separate it from the engine, leaving the torque converter bolted to the engine block. And if it's bolted to the engine block, you're not going to get it off still, so you're going to lose a flex plate and a torque converter. You'll have your transmission, but you'll need that torque converter and flex plate. So we're sitting here trying to see if we can get this engine to move. We got an extension on it, a jack stand on it, pivoting it, and we're trying to turn it both ways. We'll let it sit for 5 minutes or so, see if we can get this thing to turn, break loose. We're going to hook it and try to drag it out the front. We also removed the charcoal canister from the subframe there. And there it is, folks. Didn't quite have it high enough to clear the timing belt cover, or something clipped the timing belt cover. So we're going to have to be careful going back in. So now we got to separate the transmission from the engine and pull it out off the torque converter. Then we got to wrestle with the engine, trying to get the engine unseized, and then get the torque converter off and the flex plate off. Was able to pry the transmission off, left the torque converter and the flex plate. Now we're going to take the timing parts off of this, knock these two 12s off, knock that T45 off, that 10 off. Then we're going to take the oil cooler lines off of it. We're going to take this water pump off too, all those 10s. Then we're going to move the oil cooler lines off of it, move the block aside, and roll it around to take the oil pan off, and start taking the engine apart to see if we can see why it's bound up. Got the crank bolts loose, all the timing parts off, including the water pump. Get ready to pull this harmonic balancer off. We got that mount loose. Get ready to take these oil lines loose. There's a bracket with a 10 in it on the front of this engine. And then we're going to flip it over and take the oil pan off. Got the harmonic balancer off. Taking this front engine bracket assembly off. We could take this timing belt cover pieces off the rest of the way. There's a 10mm holding that on. We're going to take this little guard off, two 10mm. Then we're going to take the oil pan off. see what's going on inside the crank. Take these 3 bolts out of this transmission carrier bearing, because if we have to split that engine in half, that's going to be holding the top half of the engine to the bottom half. So 2 14s and a 12. Took the screw out, removed the water pipe. Now I'm going to take this bolt out here, remove this oil line, then we're going to roll it over and take off the oil pan. Pulled the oil pan off. Oh, it looked like somebody had this oil pan off, put some sealant stuff in there, and when they put it on, they messed up the seal, pinched the seal, and that thing probably wasn't circulating oil right. That seal's pinched too. They got 2 pinched seals in here. We also have metal shavings, and these metal shavings is what probably locked the engine up. So it spun a bearing somewhere. This one looks like it's heat treated. You see how it's a different color than these other ones that look copperish? So I'm gonna try to get a tool on there and take those caps off. That looks like an E8 or E9 bit or E10 bit, and pop that off, and if we can, see if we can get this engine to move. So we got a hot one there, a hot one there. I think those are the 2 that spun bearings. You got material there, material there. So we got a 12.10. I think that'll get these out. So let me take as many of these out as I can and see if we can get this crank to turn so we can get that torque converter off. We got access to 2 of the torque converter bolts right here. Most of these are coming out pretty easy, but the one that I think is not coming out. See how easy these come out? They just come right out. But this one is bound up in there. Broke the bolt, which is fine with me. I don't care if it breaks. I gotta try to get those 2 out and see if this turns.
Let me get you.
All right, I got a bearing cap off. That's a bearing end cap, and this is a bearing. That's a bearing right there. I don't expect that these will have any bearings left. Looking in here, it looks like this screw hit the side of the block, and it's supposed to have space in it. Like over there, there's space between the wall. So I don't know, we still locked up here, but I can't get a tool on it because it's jammed up against the sidewall. So I'm gonna have to try to pound that out of there somehow. So let me try to pound this and see if we can get that to move. Pulled all these 14s out. Now I'm gonna pull all those 10s out down there. Then I'm gonna pull these 12s out around here and hopefully split the bottom of this block. Yeah, these are 12s. Trying to split this block. I took the screws out of the oil pump. I got the dampener thing slides on and off there. I got all the bolts I could find off the bottom side of this block. I think it's just glued together. So let me try to pry it apart again since I got the oil pump bolts out. And we took all the screws out of the end cap for the piston rod, except for this one. This is why we're trying to separate this thing. Trying to pry this apart. I pried here on this tab. I got it started. I don't have a pry tab back here, but I put a pry there, pried it apart there. Got on the other side, pried it apart there. It's pretty much lifted up. I don't know if this oil pump's gonna be an issue or not. I could pop that back off and take the crank pulley off and see if I can get that oil pump off if that tries to hold it together. We got the crank pulley off. Let me try to pry this oil pump off. The engine is trying to split and bring the crank up with it. Not sure if I'm thrilled about that, but it is what it is. We'll see what happens. Got the 4 bolts out of the oil pump. 1, 2, 3, 4. You got a pry tab there, a pry tab there to get the oil pump off. So now the oil pump is off. You see metal shavings in there. Metal shavings in there. So let's try again to pry this apart. And well, I guess the crank is coming up because that freaking bolt is still in that end cap there. See if we could turn it again. I think we got it pried off enough where we could get that split. Jay's going to try to lift the bottom of that block off. Go ahead, Jay. We're waiting on that.
Push this down, or are you going to pry this?
No, just take the rag, put it in your hand, and try to lift to separate the block. All right, yeah, hit each side like that. Rock it up. See if it'll rock up. There we go. We got it apart. Now we can get a couple more of those bolts. Let's see if this crank will turn. Go ahead, man. See if you can turn that crank either way. Tighten or loosen. Man, that thing is still jammed in there. It looks like it's turning. Did it turn a little bit or no?
No.
See if it turned, tighten. Push down on it, yeah, like that. All right, let's stop. All right, I'm gonna take that end cap off, free that piston, and see if we can lift this crank out of here with this flex plate on it. As much as I despise 12-point sockets, 12-point for the win. How about that? Now remember, this front side one was seized, it wouldn't come out. So let's see if we can get this cap off of here. Hey, the whole crank's turning now. Hold on a second. We could lift it up out of here. You want to grab that side, and here we go, folks. Stuck to the pistons. We got it. We win. That's what you call a spun bearing. Look at that thing. Stuck in there. Look at the oil jackets lubricating the piston things. We could set this up on the side and push the pistons out of the top. Push one of the pistons through the bottom. The middle one. Try the middle one. This is probably the least evasive one. Pushing it in from the bottom. It's coming. It's almost here. There it is. It's coming out. There we go, folks. We got a piston with 3 rings on it. You got these rings around your piston. You see it's got a slot there. It's got a slot there, and it's got a slot there with some springy stuff on there. Now, when those get worn to where they are expanded out, they let oil slide by those slots, and that's what makes your car smoke, to let you know your piston rings are worn. So there you have it. This is the wrist pin. Sometimes these get worn and they cause a knocking, intermittent knocking in your engine if you got bad wrist pins. So you can have bad rings, worn wrist pin, and worn or spun bearings. Yes, folks, we got the crank out, the engine split, a piston out, oil pump out, brackets off, subframe out, transmission out. We're going to take the flex plate and the torque converter off of that, all because somebody wanted an extra large oil filter, or somebody installed an extra large oil filter. This is what you get when you get an extra large oil filter. Congratulations. A lot of work. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.